Welcome back to the Band Guide. I'm your band guy, Colin, and today I want to tell you about kind of a secret vocal killer. If you've been struggling to get a professional vocal sound, it likely has nothing to do with your mixing process. If you're going through all the steps to get a professional sounding vocal mix and it's still sounding really amateur to you, it likely has to do with the recording process. We tend to kind of separate these in our minds, and once we start mixing, it's all about getting the mix right, and we can get hung up on why is this vocal not sounding professional. But if you're going through all the standard steps for getting a professional vocal, which I've talked about on this channel, I'll link to that up here, then it might not be anything in the mixing process, it might be in the recording process, and you might have to go back and re-record those vocals. But it's really key that you record them with this in mind. So what you need to focus on when you're getting your vocal recording, the thing that can absolutely kill your vocals and keep them sounding amateur forever, is having too much of your room in your vocal recording. And this really, really matters. And I'm going to explain why. I'm going to show you an example in just a second, but let's talk about why conceptually really quickly first. So in your room has what's called reflections. That's where sound bounces off a surface and comes back to you, right? And we hear that. If you ever walk into a room and you clap and you hear it kind of flutter around, echo around a little bit, we hear that. But the other thing is that our mic hears that. And mics can only take in one source at a time, right? You just have one input, whereas our ears can detect a lot of things. It can really pick up nuances of the way things sound around a room, so it can actually sound nice in a room. Sometimes what ends up happening is that it's actually canceling out part of your vocal. So if your sound bounces off a wall, depending on the surface of that wall, the distance of that wall, the frequencies that it's kind of enhancing, when that reaches back to the microphone, so if it bounces off the wall and comes back to the microphone, it can actually kind of cancel out some of the frequencies in your voice, which are going to give you a really kind of thin, amateur sounding vocal recording. So if you've ever seen like a vocal booth, what a vocal booth is trying to do is remove the room entirely. It's just padded from floor to ceiling. But we don't have that in our house, and you don't necessarily need to have that to get a great vocal recording. The key is just to eliminate the room to the best of your ability as much as you possibly can. So the example I'm going to show you here in a minute, my buddy had just moved from a New York apartment where he'd been recording vocals in his closet. He'd moved down to Richmond, Virginia, where he was recording vocals in a room, and he was trying to figure out the best place in his room. And he sent me his first take, and it was like, well, this sounds okay. Let me see if I can get it mixed in. And when we finished it, it was like, this just isn't as clean as the vocals you've done up in New York. Do you happen to have a closet you'd go back into? So he went back, he recorded the exact same microphone, exact same interface, which is just a Focusrite interface, recorded in this closet, and got such a better vocal recording. It's crazy how much better it is. So the big key here is to remove the room as much as you possibly can. So if you have a closet, just step into that closet. It doesn't have to be a walk-in closet. If you just put your microphone in that closet and you get right up into it, you try to get the cleanest recording you possibly can with as little reflection as you possibly can. Just to think about it. If you're singing into a bunch of clothes, it's not going to bounce back in the same way. It's just going to get caught in all the clothes, right? That's what we're going for. That's what we're trying to accomplish. Now, if for some reason you don't have a closet, you could try to just get as many pillows and comforters and couches and soft things in your room, ideally up at the height that you are. For example, this room, before I actually hung these acoustic panels, as in they were just kind of sitting on the ground, it sounded almost exactly the same as without any acoustic treatment in the room, even though I had several literal feet of acoustic treatment in this room. Because it was down on the ground, what I was hearing in my ears and in my microphone was almost exactly the same. As soon as I put them up where they are now, it totally changed the way it sounds, because now when my voice bounces off the walls, it hits the panels as opposed to comes back to the microphone, right? So I guess it doesn't bounce off the walls. And that's what makes a closet so ideal, is you already have clothes hanging kind of at head height, and you can sing into that and it's going to catch it immediately. So if you can, at least get it up, and if you have a closet, just shove your mic in that closet and get the cleanest recording you can. Now let's go ahead and jump into this example so you can hear what it actually sounds like when you have room in your recording, and then what it sounds like when you don't have room in your recording, so that you can try to listen for that in your recordings. Let's check it out. All right, this is my buddy Chandler. He's incredible. There's a link in the description below where you can check him out. He's super talented. He's crushing it on TikTok right now, doing great on Spotify. Let's go ahead and listen to the two versions of this vocal. This is the vocal here, the new vocal that he recorded in his closet, and this vocal up top here is the first vocal that he'd recorded out in his room without any sort of acoustic treatment. The first vocal here, we're going to listen to it with processing in the context of the song, and then we're going to listen to the original vocal that had no acoustic treatment treatment, again with processing. Then we'll listen to them in solo so you can really hear what it sounds like to have room in your recording and then to not have any sort of room sound in your recording. So the closet recording with processing first.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna. Told them do a spin, told them do the Dollarama. Now I'm trying to take a dip. Now they turn me to a piranha.
And then the old vocals that were recorded in the room with no acoustic treatment with processing.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna. Told them do a spin, told them do the Dollarama. Now I'm trying to take a dip. Now they turn me to a piranha.
Notice how much thinner that one sounds. It almost feels a little bit harsh, and that's after I've mixed it to try to remove as much of that as I could. It still has a little bit of that sound, right? So let's go ahead and listen to these in solo. I'll turn off all the processing and all the effects, so all you're hearing here will be the raw recordings, so that you can kind of compare this to what your raw recordings sound like when you're recording your vocals, starting with In His Closet. So there's no real room sound in this recording. Check this out.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna. Told them do a spin, told them do the Dollarama. Now I'm trying to take a dip. Now they turn me to a piranha.
And again, this is just a standard microphone, an affordable microphone, and a Focusrite interface. Nothing fancy here. But listen to how different that sounds compared to the old recording in his room without any sort of acoustic treatment.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna. Told them do a spin, told them do the Dollarama. Now I'm trying to take a dip. Now they turn me to a piranha.
Right? Doesn't that just sound way more amateur, way cheaper, right? It's the same exact setup, same microphone, same interface. Everything is exactly the same. The only difference is the room. And initially, maybe you might think that this one sounds a little bit better because it has some of that natural room space, but pay attention to the low mids, the low end of his vocal in the closet and how much more presence and body that has.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna.
Compared to out in the room.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna.
Right? There's just this lack of presence and fullness to the vocal out in the room, and that has to do with the frequencies that are being emphasized as they're bouncing off the walls, the ones that are kind of being canceled away, and ultimately you end up with a thinner sounding vocal. And yes, it has a little bit of that room space that may feel a little bit more comfortable to us because that's the way we tend to hear things in the real world. But if you can get a cleaner recording with acoustic treatment or just in a closet, then you can add in those effects later. We'll listen to that in just 1 second, but first I want to show you compression is such a key part of a vocal sound, and it's kind of my test for, is this a clean enough vocal recording? So I'm going to turn on my vocal compression. This is just the fetish that I've talked about setting on this channel, my standard vocal compressor. If you don't know how to set vocal compression, I'll link to that above here. It's a big part of the mixing process. And with this vocal, a well-set compressor on a clean vocal recording that's nice and dry and doesn't have a room in it is going to help bring the vocal forward, make it feel more upfront and present. Let's listen to just this compressor on this vocal.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna.
And then let's compare that to just the compression on the vocal recording out in the room.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna.
It just highlights that room even more, and we can really hear that in the context of the mix. So now just this vocal, the original vocal recorded out in the room with compression on it.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna.
Right, so it feels like it's now in a room. It kind of feels lost in the mix. It feels a little bit unprofessional compared to this new vocal that's recorded in the closet. I can compress it all I want.
I don't even really want to. Haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna.
And it's not bringing out that room sound. And this is really key. And let me explain really quickly why this happens. And that's because a compressor is going to turn down the louder parts of the vocal recording and turn up the quieter parts of the vocal recording, which can be great for giving you punch and bringing every word to the forefront so no words are getting lost in the mix. But it also is going to bring up anything else that's quiet in your vocal recording. So it's going to bring up that room that was maybe a little quiet in your vocal recording is now going to be amplified by the compression. But that doesn't mean you just don't use compression on your vocal. It's a huge part of getting that professional vocal sound. So if you've been struggling getting a clean vocal sound and you've been going through all the steps in the mixing process, maybe the secret for you is actually going to be getting a cleaner vocal recording. Okay, let's listen finally just to what this sounds like with effects on it. So this will be all my standard processing and all of my effects, my reverbs and delays and all that. And then we'll listen to the old version as well, and you can kind of get a sense of it. Because as I mentioned, if you put a super dry recorded vocal that doesn't have a room sound into a space with reverbs and effects, it's going to feel way more natural. If you do that with a recorded room that kind of doesn't quite fit and is canceling out some of the frequencies, it will never feel as good anyway. So even though your initial response might prefer the version that has a little bit of the room recording, getting it out of there is going to help you in the mixing process. So check this out.
I don't even really want haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna. Told them do a spin, told them do the Dollarama. Now I'm trying to take a dub. Now they turn me to a piranha. Ugh.
Versus this version. This is in the room without any sort of acoustic treatment.
I don't even really want haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna. Told them do a spin, told them do the Dollarama. Now I'm trying to take a dip. Now they turn me to a piranha. Ugh.
Right? All of a sudden, this one is the clear winner.
I don't even really want haters want 4 minutes. I ain't never been Madonna. Told them do a spin, told them do the Dollarama. Now I'm trying to take a dip. Now they turn me to a piranha. Ugh.
Okay, so now that you know how to remove the room from your recordings and you understand how important it is, I want to give you something to help with the mixing, because if you want your vocals to sound professional, you have to mix them also. And I've put together a completely free pro vocal checklist that walks through the steps that you need to take to get a professional sounding vocal mix in your song. It's completely free from the link in the description below, so be sure to grab that. And before we go, I want to hear from you. Do you have any tips for getting a cleaner vocal recording in your space? How are you currently recording, and has it been working for you? If you've been struggling with it, which one of these approaches are you going to try? You're going to try to get just some blankets and pillows and things like that up at head level when you're recording? Or are you going to try shoving your mic into a closet and recording there? If you do either, I'd love to hear in the comments below which one you do and how it worked out for you. If this video was helpful, be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next week with another video.